Good evening, traveler. Sit beside the fire. The night is long, and the quiet road behind us has earned us both a moment of rest. Tonight I will tell you the long stories I have gathered over many years. Stories full of forests, dragons, ancient kingdoms, forgotten spells, and strange wonders hidden beneath the moon. Let your mind drift. Let your breathing slow. These tales will carry you softly until sleep finds you. Settle in. We begin with the longest of them all. Story 1. The Dragon of Elmora's Vale. I spent 16 days wandering the Elmora Valley, searching for a creature said to be older than the kingdom itself. The villagers called it the Veil Dragon, a being of mist and moonlight. They said it appeared only in the deepest hours of the night, when the valley filled with fog so thick that even torches could not pierce it. My journey began at the valley's mouth, where ancient stones marked the edge of the world. My horse stepped lightly, as though she sensed a presence moving just out of sight. The wind carried a strange sound, gentle and melodic, almost like humming. On the 5th night, I camped by a stream that wound through tall silver grasses. The moon shone clearly above, yet the horizon shimmered with a faint mist. I sat beside the fire, sharpening my blade, though I doubted steel would matter to something as old as the Veil Dragon. As midnight approached, the fog rolled in. It came slowly at first, drifting between the trees like curious spirits. Then it thickened, swallowing the world. My fire dimmed, its light barely reaching my boots. A sound echoed through the fog, a deep, resonant breath. I stood slowly. The fog shifted, then it rose. A massive shape took form, half seen, half guessed. Wings unfolded like drifting clouds, and a long neck curved with silent grace. Its eyes were lantern bright, glowing amber within the mist. The dragon did not roar. It did not threaten. It simply watched me. I spoke softly, telling it I meant no harm, that I sought understanding, not battle. Its breath warmed the fog around us, and the mist parted just enough for me to glimpse shimmering scales beneath. The dragon lowered its head, touching the earth in what felt like a greeting. Then the world changed. The fog lifted upward, gathering into a spiraling column. As it rose, shapes formed within it, swirling memories, flickering images of the past. I saw forests that no longer existed, mountains long eroded, ancient kings whose names had been forgotten. The dragon was showing me its memories, gifting me its view of the world. When the vision ended, the fog collapsed like a sigh, soft and quiet. The dragon stepped back, wings unfolding. Then I heard its voice, not with my ears, but deep within my chest. All things pass, traveler, it said, but every story leaves a trace. With a final wave of its wings, the Veil Dragon dissolved into the mist as though it had never been, leaving only the faint scent of rain behind. I stood alone in the clearing, breath unsteady, knowing the valley itself had shown me a truth greater than any spell. I remained awake until dawn, though I felt no fear, only awe and peace. Story 2. The Witch of Starfall Grove. South of Elmora lies Starfall Grove, a forest where the trees grow tall enough to brush the lowest stars. At least, that is what the villagers believe. Truthfully, the trees simply glow with silver moss that shines at night like constellations. I entered the grove at twilight, when the first glimmers began to bloom. The air was cool, and the forest floor sparkled faintly under my boots. Birds with luminous feathers perched overhead, singing soft, crystalline notes. But the forest held deeper magic still. They said a witch lived within ancient, powerful, and ageless. not cruel, but wary. She tended the starfall trees, guarded them from those who sought to harvest their glowing bark and shimmering leaves. I found her on the second night. I heard her before I saw her, humming a tune older than the kingdoms. She stood beside a pool of silver water, her cloak made of woven starlight that drifted like smoke behind her. Her hair, long and white, glowed faintly blue. She did not flinch when she noticed me. "You've walked far to reach this place," she said. Her voice was gentle, like wind moving through a chime. I bowed my head. "I seek knowledge," I told her, "and peace." She studied me for a long moment. Then she beckoned me closer. The pool beside her reflected not the trees, but the sky, a perfect circle of night. Stars shimmered within it, swirling slowly. She dipped her hand into the water, and the stars shifted, forming shapes and stories. "This grove remembers what the sky forgets," she said. "Every fallen star, every lost dream, every wish whispered into darkness." I sat beside her as she traced constellations with her fingertips. She spoke of ancient heroes turned to dust, of dragons who flew among the stars, of kingdoms built upon promises and broken by greed. Her stories lulled me, not with fear, but with wonder. The air around us hummed with gentle magic, making my mind grow soft and calm. Then she showed me something unexpected. The water shimmered again, forming an image of myself, walking through forests, mountains, valleys. She smiled faintly. "You wander because you listen," she whispered. "Few do, and the world speaks to those who listen." She offered me a small vial filled with starlight, a drop of silver fluid swirling like a tiny storm. "This will glow when you are lost," she said. "Not lost upon the road, but lost within yourself." I accepted it with gratitude. Before I left, she placed her hand over mine. "Do not rush your path," she said. "Even the stars take their time." I camped in the grove that night, surrounded by shimmering trees. Their glow pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of the world itself. I slept deeply, my dreams soft and full of drifting lights. When dawn came, the witch was gone, and the grove stood, silent as a held breath, but I knew she still watched, hidden somewhere within the silver leaves. Journal Entry 3, The Song of the Forest Dragon. After leaving Starfall Grove, I followed a narrow road that wound between low hills and quiet streams. Days passed in gentle silence. Birds sang, the wind moved through the grass, and the sky remained clear and kind. Eventually, the road vanished altogether, fading into a carpet of ferns and fallen leaves. I pressed on, guided only by instinct and the steady step of my horse. By the 6th day, I entered a forest unlike any I had seen before. The trees here were enormous. Their trunks were thick and gnarled, and their roots coiled like great sleeping serpents beneath the soil. The canopy above was so dense that only thin streams of sunlight slipped through, striking the ground in golden pools. And there was music. At first, I thought it was the wind, a low, distant hum that rose and fell with no clear pattern. Yet as I listened more closely, I could hear delicate notes interwoven within the sound, like a flute or a distant choir. It echoed through the trees, soft and steady, making my heart slow and my thoughts drift. The deeper I walked, the clearer the music became. Eventually, I came upon a glade where the trees opened into a wide circle. The air shimmered slightly, and the grass swayed, though no wind touched it. In the center of the glade lay a dragon. She was vast, her scales the deep green of moss and newly grown leaves. Vines tangled around her horns and trailed from her long neck. Flowers bloomed in the hollows of her scales, glowing softly with golden light. Her wings were folded tightly against her sides, their membranes veined with patterns that resembled leaves and branches. She was not asleep. Her eyes were half open, glowing softly like embers hidden beneath ash. And the music came from her. With every slow breath, her chest rose and fell, releasing a hum that traveled through the ground, through the trees, through the air. It was the same sound I had heard upon entering the forest, a low, soothing song that made the world feel older and gentler. I approached slowly, careful not to draw my sword or make any sudden movement. She watched me with calm interest, but there was no aggression in her gaze. When I stood at the edge of the glade, she took a deeper breath, and the music swelled. Images drifted across my mind, not as sharp visions, but as impressions. A sapling growing from a tiny seed, rain falling over centuries, roots spreading and intertwining beneath the soil, the slow, inevitable growth of the forest. Then her voice joined the music, though her mouth never moved. "You walk lightly," she said, her words echoing straight into my thoughts. "Few knights do." I bowed my head and thanked her. I told her I meant only to pass through, and that her song had drawn me deeper than I planned to go. "The forest called you," she replied. "It remembers kindness, even from long ago." I did not understand what she meant, but I felt no need to ask. There was a sense in her presence that explanations were less important than stillness. She unfurled one wing and motioned to a smooth patch of earth beside her. I understood, and I sat down there, resting my back against the warm roots of a nearby tree. My horse lingered at the edge of the glade, then quietly lay down, her eyes half closed. The dragon began to hum again, and the forest responded. I heard branches rustling, not in alarm but in harmony. Leaves whispered together. The ground itself seemed to vibrate with a slow, steady rhythm, like the heartbeat of something immense and unseen. The song was ancient, older than any kingdom, older than stone foundations and castles. It spoke of patience, of seasons turning, of life returning again and again, no matter how harsh the winter. Time slipped away. I do not know how long I sat there, minutes, or hours, or longer. My thoughts grew soft and distant. Worries that once weighed heavily on my shoulders dissolved like fog in sunlight. I felt as though I were no longer a stranger in the world, but a small, accepted part of it. When the song finally grew quieter, I opened my eyes. The dragoness gaze was still upon me, kind and steady. "Remember this," she said. "You are a thread in the tapestry. You do not need to see it all for your part to matter." I bowed deeply. I thanked her for the song, for the peace, for the reminder that I did not need to control or understand everything I encountered. As I rose to leave, she closed her eyes, her massive body sinking slowly into the earth. Grass and moss covered her scales. Vines crept gently over her sides. In minutes, she looked like a small hill, an ancient rise in the ground, as though she had always been part of the forest floor. Only the faint echo of her song remained, humming softly beneath my feet. I left the glade and continued my journey, carrying her melody in my heart. To this day, when I stand among old trees and listen very closely, I can still hear that distant, patient music. It reminds me that not all dragons breathe fire. Some simply breathe life into the world around them. Journal Entry 4. The Crown of the Sleeping Dragon. There are mountains far to the west, jagged and dark. where storms gather as though drawn by some invisible force. At their center lies a towering peak known as Dragon Top, for its summit curls like the crest of a great reptile. Many stories speak of a dragon sleeping beneath that mountain, buried deep in stone and shadow, its dreams shaping the weather. One year, the storms grew worse than any the locals could remember. Lightning split the sky nearly every night. Thunder rolled endlessly along the slopes. Crops failed. Roads washed out. The villagers begged for help, believing the ancient dragon had fallen into troubled sleep. I traveled there to see if anything could be done. The climb was difficult. Rain lashed the stones. Winds pushed hard against me as though the mountain itself tried to drive me back. Yet I climbed higher, my cloak heavy with water, my lantern barely holding its flame. Eventually, I found a narrow entrance between two jagged rocks. Inside, the air grew still, heavy, and very quiet. The sound of the storm faded to a distant murmur, as though I had stepped behind a curtain into another world. The tunnel descended deep into the mountain. Strange crystals grew along the walls, their gentle light reflecting in droplets that clung to the stone. My steps echoed softly, and the deeper I went, the warmer the air became, until at last I entered a vast cavern. The dragon was there. He filled the chamber, coiled upon himself, his scales dark as obsidian, with veins of glowing red tracing through them like slow-moving lava. His horns were long and curved, his wings folded tightly, his eyes were closed. Yet he did not seem peaceful. The air trembled with every breath he drew. Heat radiated from his massive body. A low rumble, almost too deep to hear, pulsed from his chest. As I watched, the crystals on the walls flickered. I realized that every time he stirred, the storm above responded. Lightning, thunder, rain. The dragon was indeed dreaming restlessly. I stepped closer, careful not to startle him. It felt strange, standing before such power, knowing that a single careless movement from him could crush me. Yet something in the way his brow furrowed, in the way his claws twitched, reminded me not of a monster, but of someone trapped in a nightmare. I did not draw my weapon. I did not shout. Instead, I sat down near his head and spoke softly. I told him stories of quiet valleys and still lakes, of warm autumn days and gentle spring mornings, of children laughing in distant villages, of elders sipping tea by their doors, watching the sun set in peace. I spoke of forests that sang and rivers that carried only calm. I spoke until my voice grew hoarse and my eyes grew heavy. At some point, as I talked about a tiny village where lanterns swayed in the evening breeze, the dragon's breathing began to slow. The rumble in his chest softened. The glow of the crystals steadied. The heat in the air became warm instead of oppressive. I did not see his eyes open. I did not hear his voice, but I felt something, a presence brushing gently against my thoughts, like a hand resting lightly on my shoulder. Thank you. It was not a word spoken aloud, but a feeling, a warmth, an understanding, as if the dragon, from within his deep slumber, recognized the calm I had tried to share. I fell asleep there, beside his massive head, the stone beneath me surprisingly comfortable. When I woke, the cavern was cooler. The crystals glowed softly, unmoving. The dragon lay still, not in distress, but in peaceful rest. His brow was smooth, his claws relaxed. I made my way back to the surface. The storm had passed. The sky was clear, the air fresh and cool. The villagers below rejoiced, grateful and relieved. They asked what battle I had fought, what spell I had cast. I simply smiled and said that sometimes even dragons only need a story to calm their dreams. I stayed in the village for several days, helping them mend roofs and clear fallen branches. At night, as I lay under the now quiet sky, I felt certain that somewhere beneath the mountain, the great dragon slept soundly, his dreams at last gentle. Journal Entry 5. The Dragon and the Library of Ashenhall. There was once a city called Ashenhall, built upon a wide hill overlooking golden fields. Its towers shone white in the sunlight, and its people were known not for their armies, but for their scholars. At the center of the city stood a vast library, said to hold every book ever written in the kingdom and many from beyond. When I arrived, years after my journey to Dragon Top, the city was quiet, not ruined, not empty, simply hushed. The people walked with slow steps. Their eyes were wary, yet hopeful. I soon learned why. A dragon had taken residence atop the library. Not a savage beast rampaging through the streets, but a sleek, elegant dragon with dark blue scales and eyes the color of polished amber. She lay coiled around the dome like a cat around a cushion, her tail draped along the roof, her wings folded neatly. She rarely moved, but when she did, dust drifted from the stones like snow. The scholars were distraught. They could not reach their precious books. They worried that the dragon might crush the building beneath her weight or set it alight with an ill-timed breath. Yet she made no effort to harm them. She simply remained. I offered to speak with her. At dusk I climbed the outer stairs, scaling the tower until I stood upon a balcony near the roof. There, just above me, the dragon's head rested against the stone, her eyes half-lidded. She watched the sunset with an expression almost thoughtful. I cleared my throat and greeted her politely. Her eye turned toward me, pupil narrowing slightly. For a long moment, she simply regarded me in silence. Then, in a voice like distant thunder whispered through silk, she spoke. "Do you read, Knight?" she asked. The question surprised me. I answered that I did, though not as much as the scholars below. She shifted slightly, making the building groan, though it held strong. These people guard their knowledge fiercely. For generations they kept their doors closed to dragons, fearing what we might do. Her gaze drifted over the city. They forget who taught them many of the things they now write. I asked her gently why she had chosen this place. She sighed, a long exhale that ruffled my hair. Once, dragons and scholars shared worlds of thought. They studied us, and we studied them. But over time, fear replaced curiosity. Only the books remained. So I came to see what they remember, to rest where their thoughts gather. I could hear no malice in her words, only a quiet sadness. I suggested that perhaps the scholars did not understand her intentions, that they saw only a great creature perched upon their most precious hall and expected destruction. She tilted her head. "I have destroyed nothing." "That is true," I agreed. "But they cannot see inside your heart as clearly as I can hear your words now." For several days, I acted as a bridge between the dragon and the people of Ashenhall. By day, I spoke with the scholars. I assured them the dragon did not wish to burn their city or steal their books. They were skeptical, but they listened. By night, I sat upon the balcony and talked with the dragon. She asked about the world beyond the city's walls, about the forests and mountains and ruins I had seen. In return, she shared stories of dragons who once debated philosophy with human sages and taught them how to measure the stars. Gradually, the fear began to soften. The scholars agreed to open the library's doors once more. They invited the dragon to peer through the great skylight at the shelves below. When she leaned down to look, the hall filled with her soft blue-tinted light. Carefully, they began reading aloud to her. They chose texts about ancient history, astronomy, and even tales of dragons written long after their kind had retreated to hidden places. She listened intently, occasionally correcting details in a quiet murmur. "That is not how it happened," she would say, and the scribes would scribble notes in the margins. Children grew brave enough to approach the plaza below the library. They would sit and listen as the scholars and the dragon shared stories together. Human voices drifting upward, dragon-s voice drifting down. Weeks later, when I prepared to depart, the dragon spoke to me one last time. "You wander, knight," she said. "You listen, and you carry stories. In this, we are not so different." I thanked her and the people of Ashen Hall for allowing me to be part of their fragile peace. As I walked away from the city, I looked back one last time. The dragon still rested atop the library, but now lanterns hung from the tower, and laughter drifted faintly through the night air. Knowledge, once guarded in fear, was being shared again. Dragons and humans both listened, and in that quiet, careful listening, a new story began. The fire burns lower as I write these words. The night grows softer. If your eyes are heavy now, let them close. Let dragons, forests, mountains, and moonlit towers drift through your thoughts like slow-moving clouds. You are safe here, traveler. The road will wait. For now, breathe gently and rest.
you.